Just the other day, somebody asked me a question regarding a theological question that they had. It was a question that they were working on a theological project for school. And they asked me this question. It was a question that really got me thinking. And so I decided for today's Wednesday video that I would use that question and expound on it just a little bit. The question was this: what are the challenges of leading in ministry in a pluralistic context? All right, let me explain that and break that down just a little bit. Pluralistic means diversity. It means, the word plural, of course, means many. And so when we live in a culture with many ideas and many religions and many races and many of everything, it means we live in a very pluralistic society. It covers religions and philosophies and ideas and values and everything you can imagine. Just this past week, there was a lot of controversy on the issue of the Israelis and the Palestinians. Who is right? Who is wrong? Who is guilty? Who is innocent? And there's many facets to that question. It's a very difficult question to answer. And when we live in a pluralistic society, it means that we're going to have a variety of answers to that question. Both Jesus and Paul lived in a pluralistic society, and they embraced it. They embraced the pluralism around us. Jesus encountered a woman at the well, happened to be a Samaritan woman, somebody that the Jews did not see eye to eye on, but he had a wonderful conversation with her. He also encountered a much despised tax collector. And just so that you know, actually it encountered two of them, and that was Zacchaeus and Matthew. Tax collectors collected revenue from the Jewish people to give to Rome so that Rome could rule over them. Now that was not a very popular idea at all. The Pharisees were the opposite of pluralistic. The Pharisees were the Jewish leaders of the day. They would probably be the opposite of pluralistic. They would be monistic, meaning that they had only one way of looking, and they only had one type of people that they wanted to deal with, and they saw everything just through a single lens when they looked at society. They would not have sat down for a meal with a tax collector. They would not have met with the Samaritan woman because Samaritans were considered unclean and basically heretics. In the 17th chapter of Acts, the Apostle Paul has just entered Athens. Paul was multicultural from the very start. He was a Jewish Pharisee who had a background in Greek and Roman culture. Because his father was likely Gentile, he understood Greek thought, he understood Roman culture. As he enters Athens, he was in the very heart of ancient philosophy. It was the place of Plato and Aristotle. He went to the meeting place of the Areopagus, where the philosophers debated and presented their ideas. And so I want to read just a couple of verses out of Acts chapter 17. I'm going to read verses 22 and 23. It says, Paul then stood up in the meeting of the Areopagus and said, "Men of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with its inscription, 'To an unknown God.' Now what you worship as something unknown, I am going to proclaim to you." Essentially what he is saying is this. First of all, he as he introduces himself, as he comes before them, he says, "I can see that you are very religious men." He compliments them. He doesn't say, "What your religion is just a bunch of baloney." He said, this is the true religion that I'm going to tell you. That's not the way he approached it. He complimented upon them, or to them, he complimented the fact that they were religious people. But the second thing he did is he spoke of the unknown God, and he basically said to them that altar that you have to the unknown God, I'm going to tell you who that unknown God is. And so he proceeded to talk about Jehovah God and Jesus Christ, his son. Essentially what he was saying here is he embraced his pluralistic culture in which he lived. Sometimes we get pretty worked up about the pluralism of our society. We have two contentious political parties that don't always see eye to eye. We have many religions, many philosophies, many ideas, many ways of doing things. We have liberal and conservative and everything else in between. And while pluralism makes us religious people nervous, because it puts us in close proximity to people who don't necessarily agree with us, they don't think like us, it's something that we really ought to consider embracing. Taking lessons from Jesus and Paul, we can look boldly to a vast array of people to whom we can share Christ if we embrace who they are and show love through Jesus Christ. May God bless you. May God give you a good day ahead. Amen.